George in Grand Rapids, Michigan writes, Paul, after several hours of listening and comparing our observations, something curious occurred to me. Okay, sounds like the beginning of a great novel. It was a dark and stormy night. My son's sense of staging was consistently different than mine. To him, the location of each instrument and voice was clearly focused, while to me they were somewhat blurred. Stage width for him extended beyond the speakers, while mine was limited to between them. He also had a better sense of stage depth than I did. Are these differences of observation due to our hearing differences? I know that one's threshold of hearing, high and low frequencies, differs from person to person, as does dynamic range, but staging? Well, yes. First off, let me assume that you are sitting in the exact same place as your son, that you have swapped seats, because if you're off from the golden seat, from the center seat, of course it's going to sound different, because remember, this sound staging we talk about is an illusion created by our left and right speakers. That's the stereo illusion. And where you're sitting makes a big difference. But let me just assume that you have that already figured out. I can set two people down in the listening room upstairs, from myself to Darren to Bob to anybody at the company, and they will all hear different staging. Now, there are similarities. We can all talk about this has more depth, this has less depth. This one is outside the box, inside the box, and when we are evaluating new equipment designs, which we do a lot upstairs. I mean, it's one of the main reasons that we even have the sound room, so we can evaluate our design work. It's important that we have some means of consensus in what we're hearing. But that said, I'll give you an example of how we differ. I use Chris Brunhaver quite a bit, our speaker designer. He's got a good set of ears. And they are clearly different than mine, not just age related. I hear things that Chris doesn't, Chris hears things that I don't. And a lot of it has to do with staging, some of it tonal balance, and that's pointing out areas. But for staging, I'll sit and listen to a design, and I hear greater depth, I'll hear this, better imaging around instruments and people, and I'll mention that to Chris, and he'll go, yeah, I hear that, but what really stands out for me is the layering, or whatever. And it's always different. Every single person that has ever sat in that seat has a slightly different take on what it is they're hearing with respects to staging. And I think that is because of the way our ears are trained. Every one of us has different training for our ears, and our ability to hear phase differences. That seems to be one of the key points of variability. Just a guess. I have no scientific proof of that at all. But I know it's not to do with hearing as far as frequencies are concerned, because people with hearing aids, people with good hearing, bad hearing, there doesn't seem to be anything common. They can all hear staging, and it's all different. So that's my guess, because staging has a lot to do with phase accuracy. It has a lot to do with the shape of your ears, I'm guessing. And every ear is shaped differently, and our brains over our lifetimes has learned how to compensate to get as flat and accurate a response with our set of horns here. And so it's bound to be different, and in fact, it is. All right. Great question. Thanks.